NBC Sports Radio is new and improved. Download our podcast from the iTunes Store. Every host, every day. Don't skip a beat. Now, back to NBC Sports Radio, where it's all good.
Glad you dialed up NBC Sports Radio and NBCSportsRadio.com. I'm Jim Daniels, and this is Speaking of Sports. On the phone with us now, as always this time of the program, we bring in the professor, Rick Horrow, and we talk about the business, the marketing, the deal-making in sports. And I'm going to cut straight to the chase with you, Professor. This Warriors win streak, I would imagine that even though they fell short of the record at 24-game win streak, equated some pretty good dollars for the club, doesn't it?
Well, it's iconic because they're going to increase merchandise sales, clearly, and they're going to be spoken about now as one of the top 10 teams of the decade, which also kind of helps informally. If the pricing for the new arena is being discussed like right now, whether it opens 2 years from now or 3 years from now, then this streak helps indirectly. And that's the other issue. Bill Lake, a good friend, owner, general partner, Peter Guber, entertainment industry, they know what they're doing, so they know how to parlay this into even bigger things. And then finally, Jim, the intangibles, which is they're in the middle of a fight for the new arena that they're going to attempt to do and get done downtown San Francisco on the waterfront. So every little bit of positive publicity helps. You know,
they're already in the works for doing this, and I'm glad that you went in this direction because I thought this is the kind of thing that just cements that deal that, you know, you had some people actually saying, I guess maybe it was mostly Doc Rivers and the Clippers, saying that, you know, they got lucky, they didn't play this team, they didn't play that team. To have them come back and back up that championship with this streak really kind of send a message to their fan base, the community, everybody, yeah, go ahead and invest in this team because looks like they may be around for a while.
Chips on shoulders are major things. If you ever, not that you ever would or did, have a bad show, you're going to come back the next week and give them hell, right?
Yeah.
That's the answer. Yeah, of course. Brady, how about his first 2 games after all of the Deflategate stuff? And it's still not over for him, and don't get in his way. And similar to see athletes who are challenged by some stuff that they shouldn't be reading because they say they don't, but they do. And so this whole issue is huge. And the bottom line is our country really gravitates toward iconic brands and special achievements, and this is incredible.
Rick, college football had just 1 game left before we get on with the we've concluded all of our conference championships and all that before we actually get into the bowl season. The Army-Navy game took place. I guess Navy was supposed to win this game handily, a little bit closer than they thought. But we're talking about the playoffs now. That's basically Clemson, Michigan State, Alabama, Oklahoma. It's what a lot of people think. There's 40 bowl games slotted. Do you have any idea? I mean, maybe this isn't part of the Horrow Sports Brief, but how much cash are we talking about? One of these bowl games. Why have we expanded? I know the reason why. It's because they make money. 40. But what are we talking about? What kind of cash does one of these bowl games generate?
I'll answer another question. So, Rick, what did you do for your bucket list yesterday? Glad you asked. I went to Army-Navy in the morning, in the afternoon. Never been there before. What incredible pomp and circumstance with Lincoln Financial. I know it was closer, but just to watch all of that and the sponsors who come out to be part of the Defense Department and Navy contracts, and all of a sudden an Army, you see them all over the place.
Yeah.
Then it's the Heisman. So we'll talk about that, but I'm driving that down from Philly, from the Heisman. So an amazing day, and obviously dominated by college football. So back to your question, 40 bowls plus the championship game, 80 teams. Everybody does this because these are 20 to 30% more avid buyers of stuff than others. The alumni are bigger. The fan bases, they're more intense. The overall economic impact of the 40 locations around the country is over $7 billion when you add it all up. That's a huge number. So are there too many bowls? Some would say so. You know, you could ask San Jose State whether they're deserving at 5 and 7. They're going to go, even though they only won 4 Division I games all year. 11, 6 of 6 teams, the most ever this year. We had an eligibility crisis. But the first thing about that, really important, for the first time, the academic progress rate was used to decide San Jose and Minnesota. San Jose State and Minnesota should be the 2 teams at 5 and 7 that get to go. And so I think it's more important that we now have some leverage to get academic standing into the bowl selection process, which is more important than anything that anybody's covered.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I would like to make one adjustment. I don't have a problem with 40 bowl games whatsoever. Who even really gets in there? I mean, it's about entertainment. And for a lot of these kids, it's the end of their career. Most of these kids are not going to go on to the NFL. This is what you get. I would just like to see them move the schedule up a little bit. I think we should be playing bowls. If we have this many already, 40 bowls, I think we should be playing them already instead of making everybody wait around so much. Rick Horrow is our guest. We talk the business, marketing, deal making in sports. We've talked a lot about safety in the NFL, and now that safety conversation moves to the Pop Warner Little Scholars, the leader in the National Youth Sports. They've talked about a lot. That they're down there in Florida. They've met. The parents have heard a lot of representatives talking about the medical advisory committee and what they've come up with. They're trying to make the game as safe as possible. Let me ask you this question. This is maybe off the script a little bit, but you're a parent. If your child comes to you and says, "I want to play football," where do you come down in that? Do you think that they've made good enough strides that you'd let your child go out there and play football?
Absolutely. And a little full disclosure, I am on the board of Pop Warner nationally, so obviously I wouldn't have made that commitment either if it wasn't for really studying what they're doing. Science is evolving. We're going to have a real significant debate in the next few weeks because the Will Smith movie is being promoted. The PBS special had just the same stuff without the glitz on it. And so now you have some doctors coming out and saying it can be everything. It's not that they're wrong, but what it does is it inspires the debate. The science is changing. The medical advisory committee is working through this. Listen, at the Super Bowl, Pop Warner won. They just had in Orlando, and the finals is today, by the way, at Disney. 225,000 kids play Pop Warner, and 125,000 girls are in the cheer competition. Pop Warner, John Butler does an amazing job, and his heart's in the right place. And as for science, you can't stop evolving. Hits today are different than hits before and penalized more. Not because we don't know what we're doing. It's just we're catching up to an evolving science.
All right, I'm going to put you on hold for a second. More from the professor coming up next. This is Speaking of Sports on NBC.